Chapter 1287. When Bailey Hongzhuang placed the rations in front of Xiao He and Xiao Bai, she was surprised to find that Xiao He and Xiao Bai did not look happy at all. On the contrary, the two little fellows looked very disappointed. Bailey Hongzhuang's inky black phoenix eyes were filled with a trace of doubt. She was very surprised. Usually, these two little guys didn't know the taste of worry. What happened today? Xiao He, Xiao Bai, what happened to make you unhappy? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Xiao He and Xiao Bai shook their heads in unison. In reality, they were very depressed. During the 3 days that their master had been in closed-door cultivation, they had also been cultivating. However, they had not been able to achieve any results. In the end, they could only helplessly conclude that their cultivation had not improved at all. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but frown when she saw Xiao He and Xiao Bai's expressions. She reached out her hand and patted the two little fellows' heads. Her voice also became gentler. What happened? If you believe me, then tell me. As Xiao He and Xiao Bai's master, she did not even know about the two little fellows' worries. She was not a good master at all. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's faces were filled with anxiety when they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Master, of course we believe you. Bailey Hongzhuang was their master. How could they keep secrets from their master? However, when they thought about how their cultivation had stagnated and how they would not be able to help their master in the future and might even become a burden to her, they could not accept it from the bottom of their hearts. If their cultivation remained stagnant, given the speed at which their master's power was increasing, it would not be long before they would become contract beasts that could only be used as ornaments. Then tell me about your troubles. Bailey Hongzhuang placed Xiao He and Xiao Bai on her lap. Even though these two little fellows were usually very annoying, it was because of their existence that her life had always been so lively. After all, these two little fellows had transmigrated together with her. If it had not been for these two little fellows by her side, she might not even have understood the chaos ring's function. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were very touched when they sensed Bailey Hongzhuang's gentleness. Even though they found it hard to talk about this matter, they felt that there was nothing that they could not say to Bailey Hongzhuang. Our cultivation has been stagnant. Little Black lowered his head. His round and adorable smiling face was now filled with deep dejection. The feeling of being unable to increase her cultivation no matter how hard she tried, she had felt despair. It's useless no matter how hard we try to cultivate. Xiao Bai sighed as well. It was at its wit's end in this situation. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. She had previously paid attention to Xiao He and Xiao Bai's cultivation. In the beginning, when Xiao He and Xiao Bai had been cultivating, their powers had been constantly increasing. However, recently, there had been no movement at all. I remember that it had been effective in the past. When did your cultivation begin to stagnate? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Back in the Azure Water Academy, she had brought Xiao He and Xiao Bai to the cultivation pagoda to cultivate. At that time, their cultivation speed had not been slow at all. Chapter 1288. Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and beautiful face was filled with doubt. Her deep black eyes flashed with wisdom as she pondered. Bailey Hongzhuang kept thinking, there must be something wrong with this. Xiao He and Xiao Bai had been by her side all this while and nothing had happened. It shouldn't be caused by external forces. This was a little strange. How are you cultivating now? The elemental energy in your body hasn't increased? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Xiao He and Xiao Bai nodded in unison. No matter how we cultivate, our elemental energy hasn't increased at all. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little helpless when she heard that. This feeling was actually the same as when Bailey Hongzhuang was a good-for-nothing in the past. No matter how they cultivated, there was no use. She just didn't know how this happened to Xiao He and Xiao Bai. We haven't come into contact with anything special during this period. Logically speaking, this shouldn't be the case, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't find the reason. It was really strange. Why don't you two cultivate for a while? I'll take a look at the situation. After thinking for a long time, Bailey Hongzhuang still couldn't come up with a solution. She could only think of this method to give it a try. Xiao He and Xiao Bai looked at each other. They also wanted to change this situation. Moreover, their master was a miracle doctor. If there was a problem in their bodies, they believed that their master would definitely diagnose it for them. Xiao He and Xiao Bai immediately started cultivating. Bailey Hongzhuang sat behind the two beasts and extended her mental strength. It split into two strands and entered Xiao He and Xiao Bai's bodies respectively. However, after Bailey Hongzhuang's inspection, she found that Xiao He and Xiao Bai's cultivation didn't have any problems. It couldn't be more normal. After exiting the cultivation state, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were dumbfounded. No matter how they cultivated previously, there wasn't any effect. How could it suddenly work now? How could this be? Our previous cultivation clearly had no effect at all. Xiao He's eyes were filled with astonishment. How did the situation suddenly change? Xiao Bai shook her head. I don't know. Could it be because Master checked it? The man and the two beasts looked at each other in confusion. Try again and see if you can succeed, Bailey Hongzhuang said. This was too strange. No matter what, as long as Xiao He and Xiao Bai could cultivate normally, it was a good thing. Xiao He and Xiao Bai nodded like chicks pecking at rice. They couldn't wait to confirm it. As long as they could successfully cultivate it, their previous problems would no longer exist. Xiao He and Xiao Bai entered the cultivation state again. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up Xiao He and Xiao Bai. She sincerely hoped that Xiao He and Xiao Bai would be able to reduce their troubles. Not long after, Xiao He and Xiao Bai opened their eyes again. Their eyes were filled with excitement. Master, we can cultivate successfully again. Xiao He's voice was filled with unconcealable excitement. Previously, when they couldn't cultivate, they only felt that their entire life was dark. Fortunately, things had taken a turn for the better. Everything was back to normal. Bailey Hongzhuang's peerlessly beautiful face also revealed a joyful smile. Her gaze became even gentler. It's good as long as you can cultivate. Now, can the two of you eat? Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Chapter 1289. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao He and Xiao Bai's eyes lit up in an instant, and they immediately rushed over. In the past 2 days, they had been distressed by the problem of cultivation, and they were not even interested in eating. Now they could finally eat with peace of mind. Looking at the two beasts eating, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. In this state, they were the real Xiao He and Xiao Bai. Seeing that Xia Jiqing and others would not be able to end their retreat for a while, Bailey Hongzhuang's mind moved and she entered the chaos ring. She had been quite busy these past few days, and the time she had spent on inscription techniques was also relatively less. However, she had never given up, and as long as she had time, she would come to train. When Bailey Hongzhuang entered the chaos ring, she suddenly found that the closed stone room had opened again. Looking at this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes could not help but fill with a hint of joy. Since the last time the stone room door about inscription opened, no other doors had opened. Now, it should be due to her breakthrough in strength that another stone room was opened. Her exquisite face was filled with an expectant smile, and she didn't know what kind of things were in the stone room this time. Xiao He and Xiao Bai also entered the chaos ring after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's voice. Originally, they stayed in the chaos ring every day, but since entering the small world, they had been staying outside and had never gone in again. Another stone room door opened. Xiao He rubbed her hands, and her eyes were full of excitement. Everything in the chaos ring was a treasure, and they were really curious about what kind of treasure it would be this time. It must be a treasure, Xiao Bai was also very excited. When they stayed in the chaos ring before, all the stone room doors here were closed, and they didn't know what was here. It wasn't until the owner arrived that the doors of the stone room opened one by one. So far, the things in each stone room were very precious treasures. It was because of this that they were looking forward to it. "Master, let's go in and have a look." Xiao He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang excitedly. Every time the stone room door opened, she had a feeling of looking for treasures, and she couldn't wait. Looking at Xiao He and Xiao Bai's excited appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt funny. After experiencing cultivation, the two little fellows seemed to have become even livelier. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly opened the door of the stone room, but the scene inside was obviously different from what Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai had imagined. Because this was an extremely spacious stone room, the layout of the stone room's layout, it was very familiar. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around and found that this stone room was not the same as the first stone room. On a high platform in the middle of the room, a book of martial skills was placed quietly. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's eyes flashed with suspicion. Even though the things inside were different from what they had imagined, they thought that it would not be a simple thing. Just like the demon summoning scripture, in the first stone room, that was a forbidden technique, and an average cultivator would never be able to see it in their lifetime. However, I wonder what kind of martial skill it is this time. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly stepped forward and took the book of martial skills. Chapter 1290. Yin-Yang 8 Trigrams Formation. Bailey Hongzhuang's black phoenix eyes were filled with a thick color of astonishment. She didn't understand. The Yin-Yang 8 Trigrams Formation was a very famous formation, but what kind of martial skill would be called the Yin-Yang 8 Trigrams Formation? Just by hearing the name, one could tell that this martial skill was not simple. Thinking about it, the things in the Chaos Ring were never simple. After carefully reading the contents of the Yin-Yang 8 Trigrams Formation, the confusion on Bailey Hongzhuang's face slowly turned into understanding. It turned out that Xiao He and Xiao Bai's abilities had been stagnant. It was not because something had happened to them, but because of the Chaos Ring's intention. Not for anything else, but to make Xiao He and Xiao Bai stay at Orange Realm Level 5 with her. The cultivation method of the Yin-Yang 8 Trigrams Formation required them to stay at Orange Realm Level 5. The most unique thing was that it was a combination skill. By cultivating with Xiao He and Xiao Bai, she and her beasts would finally combine into one, unleashing an even stronger combat power. Xiao He and Xiao Bai would form the Yin-Yang 8 Trigrams Formation, while she would absorb the energy of the Yin-Yang 8 Trigrams Formation. Thinking about it, the combination of 3 Orange Realm Level 5 beasts would increase their abilities by quite a bit. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes shone with indescribable excitement. She had heard of this combination skill before, but it had long disappeared from the Xingxian continent due to its difficulty. Not to mention the rarity of this combination skill, it was already very difficult for the cultivator and the contracted beast to reach 100% trust and compatibility. Moreover, it was not easy to make the beasts and the cultivator stay at the same level. Therefore, she had never seen a cultivator perform the combination skill. She did not expect to see the combination skill today. It was a pleasant surprise. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, Xiao He and Xiao Bai both let out a sigh of relief. They thought that something serious had happened, but it turned out to be because of this. They were relieved. In that case, we can practice the same martial skill as master. Xiao He's eyes shone brightly like little stars. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. We have to work hard to learn this Yin-Yang 8 Trigrams Formation. This is a killer move. If he encountered a situation where he was no match for his opponent, this Yin-Yang 8 Trigrams Formation could be a martial technique that could turn the tide of the battle. Now that he had come to the small world, the surroundings could be said to be filled with danger. Danger could appear at any time. The Sky Universe dynasty was only a medium-sized dynasty, and they were already in such a difficult situation. What's more, they would encounter cultivators from large dynasties in the future, which would be even more dangerous. It was naturally best to take advantage of the current situation to increase his strength. Xiao Bai nodded repeatedly. We will definitely work hard to cultivate. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang sat on the bed and held the book while Xiao He and Xiao Bai sat on her shoulders. The three of them began to look at the book. While looking at the book, the three of them also began to try to cultivate. Time gradually passed. Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai concentrated on cultivating the yin-yang 8 trigrams formation. After understanding the reason behind it, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but feel that the combination skill was really magical. She had never seen such a magical method before, and her eyes lit up. Chapter 1291. Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai had been concentrating on cultivating the Qian Kuan 8 trigrams formation. Because of the uniqueness of the body fusion technique, the way it operated was different from ordinary martial arts. Therefore, the speed of this cultivation was a bit slower than usual. Obviously, it was not something that could be cultivated in a short period of time. After 3 days, Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu exited from their cultivation state. The two walked outside the room to look around. After seeing that there was no movement in the other 3 rooms, they walked back into the room. It was taboo to be disturbed during a retreat. Therefore, they had to wait for everyone to finish their retreat. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was cultivating martial arts in the room, felt the movements of Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu and knew that the two had finished their retreat. However, she did not immediately go out. Because there was no use for the 3 of them to gather. They had to wait for Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu to finish their retreat. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were gnawing on dry food while comprehending the uniqueness of the body fusion technique. They had to admit that this kind of body fusion technique was really complicated to cultivate. Even some meridians that were not used normally had to be circulated. It was just that these meridians had not been used for many years. There were many impurities in the meridians, and spirit energy could not pass through. Therefore, if they wanted to learn this body fusion technique, they had to first open up the meridians in their body before they could cultivate. Opening up the meridians was a very taxing and exhausting thing. Therefore, they had put all their attention on opening up the meridians these days. Bailey Hongzhuang also focused her spirit energy on opening up the meridians. These meridians were very small. If she wanted to open them up, not only would she need to consume a lot of spirit energy, she also had to control the flow of spirit energy. Otherwise, if there was too little spirit energy, the meridians would not be able to open up. If there was too much spirit energy, the meridians would likely be damaged or even broken. Speaking of which, this kind of feeling was very helpless. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not feel bored because of this. As long as it was a powerful martial arts technique, it would take a lot of time to cultivate. Thinking back to when she was cultivating the sacred azure flame palm, she also spent a lot of effort and needed constant practice to be able to use it successfully. Now, because of the experience of her previous life, she was able to master the sacred azure flame palm in a very short period of time. This was the resource that belonged to her. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu had finished their retreat and stopped cultivating. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked out of the house. Little Black and Little White were still sitting on her shoulders. In the past few days, they had become more accustomed to this position. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang come out, Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu's faces were filled with smiles. Hongzhuang, you finished. You, Hongzhuang Zhuangs and Hongzhuang S's, and Hongzhuang Hongzong, and Yang, and you. And Yi, you. Xian Yu, S. Of theirs of this. Shui Fong Yu, of. The energy of this blood ginseng fruit is too strong. I didn't expect it to improve my strength so much. Dongfang Yu's elegant face was filled with a spring breeze smile. As soon as he saw the blood ginseng fruit, he knew that this was a good opportunity to improve his strength. However, even though he had expected this improvement was still too shocking. Chapter 1292. Although I have never seen the blood ginseng fruit, I have a certain understanding of its effect. I think this should be the influence of the richness of the small world, which is why the effect is so good. Gong Xiaoqing's cold and handsome face showed a wise look. The blood ginseng fruit in the outside world did not have such an effect. What cultivation level have you broken through now? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile. With a blood ginseng fruit, her strength directly rose from the second order of the Red Realm to the fifth order of the Red Realm. Gong Xiaoqing and the others' strength would have a great improvement. Xia Jiqing's face was full of excitement. I am now at the ninth order of the Red Realm. Feeling the power in her body was completely different from before, she only felt that she was much stronger than before. In just a few days, from the fourth order of the Red Realm to the ninth order of the Red Realm, this was a rocket-like improvement. Even if it happened to her, she still found it hard to believe, because the improvement was too amazing. Bai Junyu smiled and nodded. I am now at the ninth order of the Red Realm. Compared to their previous cultivation, their combat effectiveness had greatly improved. Even if they encountered a team like the Sky Empire again, they would not be afraid. Congratulations. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. The smiles on Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing's faces became more and more brilliant. Now they only felt that coming to the small world was the right choice. If they did not come to the small world, but cultivated in the outside world, they did not know how long it would take to rise to the ninth order of the Red Realm. Dongfang Yu and Gong Xiaoqing's faces also showed joy. Now they were a team. The improvement of their teammates' strength was the improvement of their team. Dongfang, what are your cultivation levels now? Bai Junyu asked aloud. His and Xia Jiqing's cultivation levels were lower than Dongfang Yu's. Presumably, Dongfang Yu and Gong Xiaoqing were now at the first order of the Orange Realm. Dongfang Yu smiled faintly. We are also at the ninth order of the Red Realm. Hearing this, Bai Junyu's face flashed with surprise. You are also at the ninth order of the Red Realm? Bailey Hongzhuang explained aloud. Dongfang Yu and Gong Xiaoqing suffered serious internal injuries before, and part of the energy of the blood ginseng fruit was used to heal them. As soon as these words came out, Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing immediately understood. I see. Heavenly treasures were often able to heal injuries. If it weren't for the blood ginseng fruit, Dongfang Yu and Gong Xiaoqing's injuries wouldn't have healed so quickly. The energy of the blood ginseng fruit has healed our injuries. Although we are now at level 9 of the Red Realm, we are not far from level 1 of the Orange Realm. With that, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked, Hongzhuang, what's your cultivation level now? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Orange level 5. Everyone nodded. The Orange and Red Realms were different levels. Orange Realms required a lot more energy to advance than Red Realms. Therefore, it was reasonable for Bailey Hongzhuang to level up to Orange level 5. However, no one knew that this was the result of Bailey Hongzhuang deliberately suppressing it. Previously, when she was in the Bloodground Abyss, her cultivation had risen very quickly. She needed some time to stabilize her foundation. Now that he had consumed the blood ginseng fruit, his improvement was even faster. Chapter 1293. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others come out, the cultivators of Xianming City felt very helpless. From the time when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others entered the city, everyone thought they were weak, but now they were strong in everyone's eyes. It had only been a few days. In the past few days, the cultivators of Xianming City only felt that they had been greatly stimulated. They had been watching Bailey Hongzhuang and the others break through, and break through again, one after another. Since when did breaking through become such a simple thing, so simple that it was unbelievable? In just a few days, the cultivation of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had completely improved by a level, which constantly stimulated their hearts. Now they only felt envious and jealous of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. They only hated that they were not a member of their team and did not have the luck to obtain heaven and earth treasures. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang again after freshening up, they were no longer embarrassed like before. On the contrary, their outstanding appearance was now more energetic, and their spirit was completely different from before. I don't know which dynasty this group of guys came from. What kind of luck did they have to be able to suddenly improve their cultivation so much? I have never seen it before. It can only be said that they are lucky. When can I have such luck? This feeling is simply like a pie falling from the sky. Since we have all come out, why don't we set off? Xia Jiqing said excitedly, I can't wait to try my strength. Her strength had suddenly improved so much, she also needed to test it out. Looking at Xia Jiqing's excited appearance, everyone looked at each other and smiled. It had to be said that Xia Jiqing had a child's temperament, but it was precisely this that made people happy. Well, let's set off. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. They had also stayed in Xianming City for a while, and it was time to set off. Everyone packed up and immediately continued to walk towards the center of the small world. Xiao He and Xiao Bai sat on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders. They were now free and unrestrained. The most troubling problem had been solved, and they could also practice martial arts with their master. They were very happy. After seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was not holding Baisher, Xia Jiqing could not help but have a look of doubt in her eyes. Hongzhuang had always been holding Baisher. For this reason, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were extremely unhappy. What was going on today? Hongzhuang, where did Baisher go? Why didn't I see him? Xia asked doubtfully. With Xia Jiqing's voice, Gong Shaoqing and the others' eyes were all looking at Bailey Hongzhuang. Now they were used to having 3 beasts with them, as if they were a member of the team. Now that Baisher was not there, they always felt that something was wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Baisher is about to start breaking through. He is now sleeping, and it is estimated that he will not wake up in a short time. Xia Jiqing and the others suddenly smiled and said, this time the strength of our team has greatly increased. Not only did we break through, but Baisher is also breaking through. This trip to the small world is more and more exciting. Everyone moved forward with a smile, quickly walking into the forest, just to test the improvement of their strength. Chapter 1294. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others shuttled through the forest. Perhaps because of the excitement of the breakthrough, they were not as nervous as before in the face of the surprise attack of the monsters. On the contrary, they were eager to try. One by one, the wicked beasts fell under the swords of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. With the improvement of their strength, everyone found that their yuanqi, which would have disappeared in a short time, had increased a lot. Not only that, their control of martial arts had also begun to improve, and they could perform more smoothly. The improvement of strength is really different. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a joyful smile. Compared to before, her speed of hunting monsters today was much faster. After a while, her strength had soared so much that she felt a little unaccustomed. Bai Junyu and the others looked at each other and smiled. For cultivators, improving their strength was the happiest thing. Hongzhuang, if next time a cultivator asks us which dynasty we are from, how should we answer? Bai Junyu suddenly thought of this question and immediately turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. In this small world, almost all the teams would mention the name of their dynasty, just like the last time the cultivators of the Sky Dynasty asked them. They were not from any dynasty, so it was better to unify their answers in the future. The Dark Phoenix eyes flashed with a touch of thought. If they said they were from the Tian Gang sect, it would be difficult to convince other teams because they were really few in number. On the contrary, doing so might cause quite a bit of trouble. Last time, didn't the cultivators of the Sky Dynasty mistakenly think that we are from the Tiangang Dynasty? I think this name is good, Xia Jiqing said. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Why don't we say we are from the Tiangang Dynasty? This name was very good. No matter how the other party understood it, there was no problem with their name. Gong Xiaoqing and the others looked at each other and immediately nodded. They also felt that this name was very good. Then it's settled, Gong Xiaoqing said. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked all the way. Suddenly, there was a movement on the left. Apparently, there were teams from other dynasties. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other four gripped their weapons tightly. In this small world, fighting was a common occurrence. The slightest wrong word could trigger a fight between the two teams. During this period of time, they had seen many such situations. With a glance, the team that had arrived was also from a medium-sized empire. However, they looked extremely unfamiliar. It seemed that they had never interacted with each other before. The other party obviously did not intend to be their enemy, so Bailey Hongzhuang and the others no longer paid attention to them and continued to walk forward. Right at this moment, a pleasantly surprised voice suddenly sounded out, "Miss Bailey, I didn't expect to actually see you at the test competition." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but stop. Xia Jiqing and the others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Did Hongzhuang know this cultivator? Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at the person who spoke in surprise. In her impression, she didn't know him. However, the other party had called out her name. Obviously, he knew her. However, no matter how Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it, she didn't remember that she had seen him before. Chapter 1295. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the 18-year-old man in front of her and asked doubtfully, "Young lord, do we know each other?" Without waiting for the man to speak, the woman beside him smiled and said, "Miss Bailey, we are cultivators from the Snow Origin Dynasty's Yuan family. We saw you when you came to stay with the Yuan family, but it's normal that you don't remember us." When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen came to the Yuan family, the patriarch treated them as distinguished guests. They went to see them out of curiosity, but Bailey Hongzhuang didn't pay attention to them. Therefore, they knew Bailey Hongzhuang, but Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know them. When Bailey Hongzhuang heard that they were from the Snow Origin Dynasty, she understood a little. After learning that they were cultivators from the Yuan family, a smile blossomed on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. "So it's cultivators from the Yuan family, I didn't expect to meet you here, what a coincidence. This one is Yuan Jixin, this is my sister, Yuan Xiaoman," Yuan Jixin said with a smile. Although Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know them, they admired Bailey Hongzhuang very much. Previously, they learned from the patriarch that Bailey Hongzhuang had obtained the inheritance of the Blood-Ground Abyss, which was an extremely amazing inheritance. Bailey Hongzhuang was young, but not only could she withstand the pressure of the Blood-Ground Abyss, but she could also obtain the inheritance. How amazing was this talent! The patriarch had already said that if they had the chance to see Miss Bailey in the future, they must treat her with respect and must not offend her. They thought that they would never see Bailey Hongzhuang again in their lives, but they didn't expect to meet her in this assessment. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, her eyes sweeping across the Snow Origin Dynasty's team. Obviously, only Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman were cultivators from the Yuan family. "Nice to meet you." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled brightly, "These are my teammates, Xia Jiqing, Bai Junyu, Dongfang Yu, and Gong Xiaoqing." Hearing this, Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman also smiled with joy, "Nice to meet you." When Gong Xiaoqing and the others learned that the other party was from the Snow Origin Dynasty, they already understood that the famous Blood-Ground Abyss was located near the Snow Origin Dynasty. "These are our teammates, Zhu Weicheng, Ren Wantong, Feng Mingzhe, Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman introduced their teammates. Their expressions seemed to show their closeness to Bailey Hongzhuang. Although they didn't know why Bailey Hongzhuang would appear in the team of a small empire, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength and potential were already very good. In any case, they were of her. However, the other cultivators and Yuan Hongzhuang and think of the Yuan. They only felt that Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman were too exaggerated. The other party was just a cultivator from a small empire, but Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman were actually trying to curry favor with him. This was a disgrace to their Snow Origin Empire. In this small world, strength had always been respected. Only cultivators from small empires fawned over cultivators from medium empires. They had never seen cultivators from medium empires trying to close the distance between them. Therefore, when Yuan Jixin and Yi Zichen introduced them, they did not take it to heart. Bailey Hongzhuang was Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman's friend, but not their friend, so they didn't need to care. Chapter 1296. Yuan Xiaoman's face was filled with a joyful smile. She had always had a good relationship with Yuan Liqing, so she had gained a better understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang from Yuan Liqing's words. Speaking of which, it was quite miraculous. Yuan Liqing had only met a friend by chance, but she had never thought that the other party would be the successor of the Bloodground Abyss. This kind of luck had always been praised in their Yuan family. If it had not been for the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, the Yuan family's status in the Origin Martial City would not have reached its current level. All of this was because of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's appearance, which had helped them solve a big problem. Therefore, as a member of the Yuan family, she was filled with gratitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Hearing Yuan Xiaoman mention Yuan Liqing, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips widened. Speaking of which, she and Yuan Liqing had indeed hit it off at first sight. Thinking back to when she had left, Yuan Liqing was very reluctant to part with her. Is Liqing doing well now? Yuan Xiaoman nodded slightly. Sister Liqing is doing very well. I just hope to see you again one day. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others continued to move forward. Along the way, Bailey Hongzhuang and Yuan Xiaoman chatted happily. In this small world, almost all the cultivators they had met were people they had never met before. It was rare to see friends they knew, so there was an indescribable sense of familiarity. Miss Bailey, we still have to continue hunting monsters, so we'll take our leave first. After walking for a while, Yuan Jixin slowly said. He felt very helpless in his heart. Originally, he could have talked more with Bailey Hongzhuang, but the other cultivators in the group were clearly not satisfied with this. Along the way, he felt very unwilling. If this continued, his other teammates would probably explode. Bailey Hongzhuang was obviously aware of this situation and immediately smiled. Okay, see you next time. Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman waved at Bailey Hongzhuang, then left with the cultivators of the Snow Origin Dynasty. The Snow Origin Dynasty's cultivators didn't even bother to greet Bailey Hongzhuang. They turned around and quickly left, as if they couldn't bear to stay any longer. After the cultivators of the Snow Origin Dynasty disappeared from her field of vision, Xia Jiqing exploded. What kind of attitude is this group of guys have? Their nostrils are in the sky. I feel disgusted just looking at them. They are a team from a middle-sized empire. They are naturally disdainful when they see us cultivators from a small empire. Gong Xiaoqing's expression was still cold. He was not very angry about this. After all the cultivators in the small world were like this, so there was nothing strange about it. I think only Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman are good. If others don't want to talk to us, I don't want to talk to them either. Xia Jiqing's face was full of resentment. She hated the other party's face the most. It was really disgusting. Bailey Hongzhuang patted Xia Jiqing's shoulder and said with a smile, we don't know the other cultivators at all. Why bother with them? They are just a group of insignificant strangers. Only Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman were their friends. As for the others, they could just treat them as if they didn't exist. It was not worth it to get angry over some unimportant cultivators. Hearing this, Xia Jiqing nodded slightly, and the original dissatisfaction faded a little. Chapter 1297. After Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman separated from Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, a trace of dissatisfaction appeared on their faces. Zhu Weiqing, why did you treat them like that just now? That was too rude. Yuan Xiaoman had always had a straightforward temper. Even she could feel the disdain of Zhu Weiqing and the others, let alone Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had a good temper. Otherwise, they might have caused trouble. Zhu Weiqing was already very dissatisfied with Yuan Xiaoman and Yuan Jixin's attitude towards the cultivators from the Tiangang Empire. Now that Yuan Xiaoman dared to criticize him, he naturally would not back down. I say, Yuan Xiaoman, aren't you a little too spineless? We are a team from a medium-sized empire. Don't you think it's too embarrassing to coax cultivators from a small empire? Hearing Zhu Weiqing's words, Ren Wantong and the others nodded. With our status, we don't need to be so polite to them. Yuan Xiaoman was even more furious. What do you know? Bailey Hongzhuang is a very powerful cultivator. After so many years, how many cultivators had obtained the Bloodground Abyss inheritance? For Bailey Hongzhuang to be able to obtain the inheritance, it could be seen how amazing her talent was. Such a cultivator would almost certainly become a powerhouse in the Xingxian continent in the future. Zhu Weiqing sneered, just a cultivator from a small empire, how amazing can her talent be? It's already good enough that she can protect herself from dying in this pocket world. In Zhu Weiqing's opinion, one's status determined one's future. In the history of the Xingxian continent, the majority of powerhouses came from extraordinary backgrounds. Only a small number of powerhouses came from remote places. He didn't believe that this Bailey Hongzhuang could be one of the few cultivators in the world. Yuan Xiaoman, since we are in this pocket world, we represent the entire Snow Origin Empire. I think you should be more apprehensive about the Snow Origin Empire's reputation in the future. Ren Wantong said slowly. Hearing Ren Wantong's words, Yuan Xiaoman became even angrier. These guys actually thought that she was embarrassing the Snow Origin Empire by contacting Miss Bailey. These guys don't know anything at all. Just when Yuan Xiaoman was about to refute the crowd, Yuan Jixin stopped her. Yuan Jixin winked at Yuan Xiaoman, interrupting her next words. There weren't many cultivators who knew that Miss Bailey had obtained the inheritance of the Bloodground Abyss. As Miss Bailey's friends, they naturally couldn't spread the news of Miss Bailey. It was fine if the others didn't believe him. They had been teammates for the past 2 years, but they couldn't be considered as close friends. In the future, when they left the small world, they would go their separate ways. There was no need to care too much about it. Noticing Yuan Jixin's gaze, Yuan Xiaoman suppressed her anger. She was so angry that she almost spilled the beans. Now that Yuan Jixin had stopped her, she realized that it was a good thing that she didn't spill the beans. Seeing that Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman didn't speak anymore, Ren Wantong and the others couldn't help but show a satisfied expression. Not far away, after a group of cultivators heard the conversation between the cultivators of the Snow Origin dynasty, their expressions changed, and their eyes were immediately filled with a wisp of interest. Chapter 1298. It was obvious that the various forces had done a lot of preparation when they constructed the small worlds. This was how the assessment had been conducted for so many years, so the distance between the cities was considered. As long as they did not encounter any major incidents along the way, most cultivators would be able to reach the next city before nightfall. The number of demonic beasts in the small worlds was shocking. Even though the cultivators had been trying their best to hunt the demonic beasts, the number of demonic beasts seemed endless. Just like the great battle back then, it was too difficult to kill all the demonic beasts. This was probably the most powerful aspect of the demonic beasts. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest went out to hunt demonic beasts during the day and returned to the city at night. Their days were quite fulfilling. As their strength increased a little, some of the troublesome matters also decreased a little. Kind people were bullied, kind horses were ridden. The cultivators in the small worlds paid more attention to this point. As such, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were happy and relaxed. They hunted demonic beasts every day, and the speed at which their points increased was not bad. Through Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest's research, they realized that the empire's teams that they had encountered so far were from small and medium-sized empires. It was obvious that the empires of different levels would appear in different areas. Perhaps this was done on purpose by the various forces to be fair. After all, if the cultivators from small empires encountered cultivators from large empires at the beginning, there would be no other possibility other than failure. It was obvious that it was better for them to encounter each other later. Moreover, it was best for the various empires to meet each other. Although it was inevitable that all the empires would meet at the end, it still gave everyone the most time. A month later, on this day, Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5 also walked into the city before nightfall. Now, they were already used to such a situation. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest entered the city, they realized that the situation in the city was different from usual. This was because there were very few cultivators in the city at first glance. This was extremely strange. During this period of time, every city that they had visited was filled with cultivators, and it was rare to see such an empty situation. There's a commotion in the central square of the city. Why don't you go and take a look? I heard that the cultivators from the Green Firmament Empire are teaching the cultivators from the Snow Origin Empire a lesson. I wonder what kind of feud there is between the two empires. It's such a big commotion. Since we have nothing to do here, we might as well go and take a look. Some of the surrounding cultivators' faces flashed with interest, and they immediately walked toward the central square of the city. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest felt that the situation in the city was very strange, so they paid more attention to the discussions of the few cultivators around them. Just by hearing a few key words, their expressions changed rapidly. The Green Firmament Empire. The Snow Origin Empire. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were no strangers to these two dynasties. For the Qing Shao dynasty, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others hated it to the bone. Chapter 1299. Qing Shao Dynasty. Xia Jiqing's face was full of surprise. Did I hear it wrong? Are they talking about the Qing Shao dynasty? Bai Junyu turned his head to look at Xia Jiqing, his handsome face was also full of surprise and confusion. I also heard the Qing Shao dynasty, I shouldn't have heard it wrong. Gong Shaoqing's face had already sunk when he heard the words Qing Shao dynasty. It's really a small world. I didn't expect to meet them here. Among all the dynasties, the Green Firmament dynasty was the one they hated the most. It was without a doubt the number one. If they could not wait to destroy the entire Qing Shao dynasty. Snow Origin dynasty. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. How could the cultivators of the Snow Origin dynasty be involved with the Qing Shao dynasty? The distance between the Snow Origin dynasty and the Qing Shao dynasty could be said to be extremely far. The hatred between the two should have been formed after coming to the small world. However, what was surprising was that they actually knew the teams of both dynasties, which was very interesting. The cultivators of the Qing Shao dynasty really don't stop wherever they go. They are so arrogant, it's really disgusting. Xiao Hei's face was full of disgust. Thinking back, it hated the Qing Shao dynasty to the core. It did not expect to meet them again. They want to teach the cultivators of the Snow Origin Dynasty a lesson. Doesn't this mean that Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman are also there? Xiao Bai frowned. It had a good feeling about Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman. It would be a pity if they died in the hands of the annoying people of the Qing Xiao dynasty. Let's go and see. Bailey Hongzhuang's face sank. Although she had only met Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman once, because of the existence of the Yuan family, they were friends. What's more, Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman gave her a good feeling. Xia Jiqing and the others nodded. Since such a thing had happened, they naturally had to go and see. I'd like to see how arrogant the Qing Xiao dynasty is. Xia Jiqing said angrily. When she thought of the ugly face of the Qing Xiao dynasty, she hated that she could not kill this group of people. The three men, Dong Fengyu, Gong Shaoqing, and Bai Junyu, fell into silence. The events of the past were still vivid in their minds. That scene of helplessness and struggle was something they would never forget for the rest of their lives. He had thought that he would never meet him again in the future. Who would have thought that he would actually meet him in this small world? Perhaps this was fate. The heavens had given them a chance to take revenge. Central Square. There were 8 cultivators standing in the huge square. The other 8 cultivators were lying on the ground. Their bodies and faces were stained with blood. It was obvious that they were severely injured. Nangong Yujin, we have no grievances, why do you humiliate us like this? Zhu Weiqing's face was filled with anger. He did not know what was going on. The cultivators of the Qing Xiao dynasty seemed to have identified them and attacked them without any reason. The Snow Origin dynasty was considered to be quite powerful among the middle-tier dynasties, but there was still a gap between them and the Green Firmament dynasty. They had no intention of offending the Qing Xiao dynasty. After all, they would not offend a powerful team if they were not confident enough. Unfortunately, they had no idea what was going on. Chapter 1300. Listening to Nangong Yujin's answer, Zhu Weiqing almost spat out blood. What kind of strange reason was this? Even if he was arrogant, he had never been arrogant in front of the cultivators of the Green Firmament dynasty. What do you want? Zhu Weiqing's eyes were full of resentment. As an excellent cultivator of the Snow Origin dynasty, he had always been admired by everyone. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? The most abhorrent thing was that the cultivators of the Green Firmament dynasty had deliberately led them to the central Guangzhou. Almost all the cultivators in the city were attracted by such a situation to see them make a fool of themselves. What kind of humiliation was this? Instead of being humiliated like this, he would rather be killed. That would be a clean death. Now that he felt the mocking eyes of the crowd, he just wanted to find a hole to hide in. Sooner or later, you will suffer retribution. Yuan Jixin's face was also full of anger. It was very normal for cultivators to fight, but the other party had poisoned them. If they had lost the battle, then they would have accepted it. After all, their skills were not as good as others. Now that they had been defeated in such a dirty way, even if he died, he would not be able to rest in peace. Nangong Yujin sneered, slowly walked in front of Yuan Jixin, and directly stepped on his abdomen. I heard that you know Bailey Hongzhuang. As soon as these words came out, Yuan Jixin's face could not help but change a little. He never thought that this matter would involve Bailey Hongzhuang. Yuan Jixin looked at Nangong Yujin in surprise. He did not know whether Nangong Yujin and Bailey Hongzhuang were enemies or friends. After Zhu Weiqing heard Nangong Yujin's words, he connected them to Nangong Yujin's arrogant words. Soon, he figured out the key to this. Could it be that Nangong Yujin knew that he was very arrogant in front of Bailey Hongzhuang? With Bailey Hongzhuang's stunning appearance, Nangong Yujin was most likely an admirer of Bailey Hongzhuang. In this way, Zhu Weiqing had already figured out all the connections within a short period of time. At this moment, he was even more regretful. If he knew that Nangong Yujin was Bailey Hongzhuang's admirer, he would not have treated Bailey Hongzhuang that way. Nangong Yujin, we are friends with Bailey Hongzhuang. Do you think we are enemies? Zhu Weiqing quickly said. Listening to Zhu Weiqing's words, Yuan Jixin could not help but frown. He felt that the relationship between Nangong Yujin and Bailey Hongzhuang was not friendly. Otherwise, Nangong Yujin would not have stepped on him when he knew that he knew Bailey Hongzhuang. Then, Zhu Weiqing's words were no different from adding fuel to the fire. Nangong Yu stomped on Zhu Weiqing's face. I just don't like Bailey Hongzhuang. I don't like Bailey Hongzhuang's friends. Nangong Yu's eyes were vicious. The woman she hated the most in her life was undoubtedly Bailey Hongzhuang. Because of Bailey Hongzhuang, Mo Yunjue turned a blind eye to her. She only felt that since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, all her dignity was trampled on. Mo Yunjue knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had a sweetheart, but he still protected Bailey Hongzhuang. His disdain for her was tantamount to a sharp knife stabbing into her chest. Chapter 1301. Since the departure of Bailey Hongzhuang, Mo Yunjue had also left the Qin dynasty. In the following days, she never saw Mo Yunjue again. The man she had loved for a long time had disappeared from her sight. No matter how she searched, she could not find any news about Mo Yunjue. This made her disheartened, and at the same time, her hatred for Bailey Hongzhuang grew stronger. Not only that, but because of Bailey Hongzhuang, the Qin dynasty had also undergone tremendous changes. Nangong Aochin died, and his death caused a plague. Many members of the royal family were buried with him. She and Nangong Yujin were lucky. They had not had much interaction with Nangong Aochin, so they were spared. Not only that, but her father loved Nangong Aochin too much. When Nangong Aochin was sick, he often visited him. As a result, her father was also infected with the plague. Now that the Qin dynasty had changed, she and Nangong Yujin were not as good as before. And all of this was thanks to Bailey Hongzhuang. Long ago, she secretly vowed that if one day she could see Bailey Hongzhuang again, she would kill Bailey Hongzhuang with her own hands to vent the hatred in her heart. However, she also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was the wife of Di Beichen, the young lord of Tiangang's sect. They were in two completely different worlds, and the possibility of meeting again in the future was very small. However, she did not expect that they would see Bailey Hongzhuang in the small world. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to appear here as a cultivator from a small dynasty. When she learned the news, she and Nangong Yujin could not hide their excitement. It was really God who gave them such a chance for revenge. Nangong Yu was even more proud. She knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's identity was not worthy of Di Beichen. Now it seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang had been abandoned by Di Beichen. Otherwise, Bailey Hongzhuang would not appear in the small world with such an identity. Listening to Nangong Yu's words, Zhu Weiqing's face was pale. This plot was not right. Why was it completely different from what he had thought before? Yuan Xiaoman looked at Zhu Weiqing angrily. She really did not know what Zhu Weiqing was doing. I have already calculated that if there is no problem, Bailey Hongzhuang will come to Yiqin City today. Do you think that Bailey Hongzhuang will come to save you? Nangong Yujin looked at Yuan Jixin with a sneer. Although he did not know how this guy knew Bailey Hongzhuang, with Bailey Hongzhuang's character, he thought that she would not stay out of this matter. At this moment, the cultivators of the Snow Origin dynasty came to a realization. It turned out that the cultivators of the Qin Shao dynasty were so eager to deal with them because they were using them as bait to lure Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Zhu Weiqing and the others' faces became ugly in an instant, and they looked angrily at Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman. If Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman did not know Bailey Hongzhuang, how could they have suffered such an unexpected disaster? Yuan Jixin, Yuan Xiaoman, it's all your fault. Ren Wantong said angrily. In the beginning, she did not have a good impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. She did not expect that now she would be implicated because of Bailey Hongzhuang. She was furious. We have nothing to do with Bailey Hongzhuang. If you want to catch someone, just catch Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman. Feng Mingzhi said. Chapter 1302. As soon as Feng Mingzhi finished speaking, Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman's expressions instantly turned ugly. They never thought that Feng Mingzhi would say such a thing. However, what happened next made Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman even more disheartened. That's right, we don't know Bailey Hongzhuang at all. Only Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman know her. You just need to catch them. Ren Wantong hurriedly said. She had always been the pride of her family. When had she ever been wronged like this? Furthermore, she had been wronged because of a complete stranger. She did not want to die in Yechin City like this. Seeing that Feng Mingzhi and Ren Wantong had expressed their opinions, Zhu Weicheng and the Snow Origin Dynasty cultivators also expressed their opinions. In their opinion, this matter was originally caused by Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman. Naturally, Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman should be the ones to solve it. In just a short moment, Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman were betrayed by all their teammates. They simply could not believe that these were the companions whom they had spent the past 4 months with. In just a short moment, they had completely abandoned the two of them. All the affection they had for each other had disappeared without a trace. After feeling disheartened, Yuan Jixin could not help but smile self-deprecatingly. Come to think of it, this was what it meant to be heartless. Previously, they had overestimated their position in the team. In the face of disaster, they had fled separately. This saying was not wrong at all. The Snow Origin Dynasty cultivators actually betrayed their teammates just like that. This speed is really shocking. It's every man for himself. These guys' actions are very normal. I wonder who this Bailey Hongzhuang is. They've been talking about her for a long time, but I've never heard of her. The crowd discussed animatedly. All of this was exposed in front of everyone's eyes. The conversation between the two teams had not been hidden and they had heard it clearly. So far, the name they had heard the most was Bailey Hongzhuang's name. They were really curious as to who this Bailey Hongzhuang was. Looking at the confident looks of the cultivators from the Green Firmament Dynasty, it seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely come to Yechin City today. It's almost nighttime now. Logically speaking, most of the cultivator groups should have already entered the city. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have already arrived and are deliberately not showing up? Even if he doesn't show up, it's normal. The cultivators of the Green Firmament Dynasty are not easy to deal with. Since the Qing dynasty had put on such a big show, they must have made enough preparations. This was simply a feast at Hongmen. If Bailey Hongzhuang appears, I'm afraid she won't be able to return. With a sneer on his face, Nangong Yujin bent down. Yuan Jixin, do you think Bailey Hongzhuang will come? Originally, they could have directly attacked Bailey Hongzhuang's team, but they felt that doing so would be more innovative. With Bailey Hongzhuang's character, he was afraid that she would not be able to bear such a thing. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang comes here, he will definitely make Bailey Hongzhuang unable to live, unable to die even if she wanted to. Just kill me. Yuan Jixin looked at Nangong Yujin angrily. He did not know what kind of hatred there was between Nangong Yujin and Bailey Hongzhuang. However, in his opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang was a girl worthy of admiration. On the contrary, Nangong Yujin was an extremely despicable person. Chapter 1303. Listening to Yuan Jixin's words, Nangong Yujin sneered, "You want to die? It's not that simple. Yuan Xiaoman looked angrily at the cultivators of the Green Firmament dynasty. She really did not expect these guys to be so despicable. The Green Firmament dynasty was also a medium-sized dynasty. It was really amazing that they were so despicable. Nangong Yujin, we have said that we have nothing to do with Bailey Hongzhuang. Please let us go. Zhu Weiqing could not help but say. Even if their team lost Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman, it did not matter. After all, there were still 6 people left in the team, which was a bit stronger than the team of a small dynasty. If he were to die here today, then there would be no hope left. Nangong Yujin looked at Zhu Weiqing with disgust. Do you think I'm a fool? Regardless of whether Zhu Weiqing knew Bailey Hongzhuang or not, it was undeniable that this guy's behavior was really disgusting. Even he had an impulse to kill this guy directly. As Nangong Yujin's voice fell, the faces of Zhu Weiqing and Ren Wantong also became ugly. Even if they were telling the truth, the other party would not believe them. This was really depressing. Damn it, Yuan Jixin, Yuan Xiaoman, it's all your fault. Ren Wantong was about to die from anger. She really didn't know how she had been dragged into this unexpected disaster. It clearly had nothing to do with her, but now she had to stay here and endure this humiliation. It was really too depressing. Zhu Weiqing and the others also looked at Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman angrily. If it were not for them inexplicably contacting Bailey Hongzhuang, how could this happen now? The most important thing was that Bailey Hongzhuang was a cultivator from a small dynasty. It was so late now, and Bailey Hongzhuang had not yet come. It was very likely that she did not dare to come. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang really came, as a cultivator from a small dynasty, it was impossible for her to be the opponent of Nangong Yujin and the others. It was tantamount to sending herself to death. If Bailey Hongzhuang was killed by the cultivators of the Qin Shao dynasty, there was a high chance that they would not be able to escape the same fate. After all, if they were in his shoes, they wouldn't have chosen to let him go either. Yuan Xiaoman, who was already angry to the extreme, after hearing the words of Ren Wantong and the others, her face turned red with anger. What qualifications do you bunch of bastards have to talk about us? It's fine even if my brother and I die here. You guys deserve to die here. As early as when Ren Wantong and the others proposed to leave her and Yuan Jixin here, the affection between her and Ren Wantong and the others had completely dissipated. Enduring the humiliation from the cultivators of the Green Firmament dynasty was already unbearable. In the end, he was betrayed by his good friend. One could only imagine how depressing it was. Now that Yuan Xiaoman had already given up, since this group of people wanted to abandon her and flee for their lives, she might as well let them all die here. Hearing Yuan Xiaoman's words, Ren Wantong and the others were even more furious. Yuan Xiaoman, you've gone too far. If you want to die, die by yourself. We don't want to be buried with you. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the central square, they saw this scene. The cultivators of the Snow Origin dynasty were tied up and lying on the ground, while the cultivators of the Green Firmament dynasty looked at them arrogantly. Chapter 1304. The cultivators of the Snow Origin dynasty are too disloyal. At this critical moment, they even abandoned their companions. It's shameful. Xia Jiqing's face was full of incomprehensible light. Since they were companions, they would naturally follow them all the way. If they gave up in the face of a little danger, then in the end, they would be left alone. Alone in this small world, there was no way to survive except for death. After so long, the attitude of Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu has not changed at all. Their arrogance is disgusting. Dongfang Yu's eyes were filled with cold hatred. He was extremely disgusted with Nangong Yujin. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly, looking at the situation. This problem seems to be caused by me. She had just arrived at the central square and faintly heard her name, which was very strange. Thinking back, when she left the Qin Shao dynasty, she drugged Nangong Aochen. She thought that the royal family of the Qin Shao dynasty should be in chaos. However, after she left, she never paid attention to the news of the royal family of the Qin Shao dynasty, so she was not very clear. If her judgment was correct, the royal family of the Qin Shao dynasty should not be very good. It was normal for Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu to hate her. However, if it was really because of her, how did Nangong Yujin know that she would arrive in Yaqin City today? Nangong Yujin, it has been so long, and Bailey Hongzhuang has not come yet. Are you sure she will come? At this time, a cold and hoarse voice sounded, and everyone noticed the black figure on the high platform of the central square. The man was wearing a black cloak, and his body was completely hidden in the cloak, so that people could not see his true appearance. However, just by listening to that hoarse voice, everyone felt uncomfortable. After the man spoke, Nangong Yujin quickly said, Bailey Hongzhuang should come. Compared to his previous arrogance, Nangong Yujin's attitude when talking to the man was obviously more restrained, and he even faintly tried to curry favor with him. Upon realizing this, the cultivators who were watching the battle were rather surprised as well. Previously, they focused all their attention on Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu, so they did not notice the existence of this man. Based on the current situation, it seemed that the cloaked man was the one with the most authority among the cultivators of the Qin Shao dynasty. Nangong Yuer hurriedly nodded. With Bailey Hongzhuang's personality, she would definitely come if something happened to her friend. She clearly remembered that it was Nangong Xiujie who humiliated Dongfang Yu. Bailey Hongzhuang also humiliated Nangong Xiujie in the same way. At that time in the Qin dynasty, Bailey Hongzhuang humiliated the royal family in public. This was a very serious matter. Logically speaking, ordinary cultivators would not do this, but Bailey Hongzhuang did it. From this point alone, it could be seen that Bailey Hongzhuang valued her friends. What's more, this time the cultivators of the Snow Origin dynasty suffered because of Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang knew about this, she believed that Bailey Hongzhuang would not sit idly by. Hearing this, the cloaked man's voice was still low and cold. It better be so. Chapter 1305. In the crowd, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others saw the man hidden in the black cloak, and there was a trace of surprise on their faces. They had never seen this man before when they went to the Qin dynasty. With the arrogance of Lingyin College, if this man was a cultivator of Lingyin College, then it was impossible for him not to fight. As a result, there was only one conclusion left: this man was not a cultivator of Lingyin College at all. However, Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu were so cautious about this man, which was too strange. It was reasonable to say that Nangong Yujin's status in the Qin dynasty should be very high. After all, the crown prince Nangong Aochen was dead, and the second prince Nangong Xiujie had died in the hands of others, so it was possible for Nangong Yujin to inherit the throne. If this was the case, then Nangong Yujin was the most powerful person in the Qin dynasty. But now it was a strange man, which was very strange. I don't know who this cloaked man is. Is he a hidden expert of the Qin dynasty? Gong Shaoqing's handsome eyes flashed with doubts and thoughts. The identity of this man was really suspicious. No matter what his identity is, it can be seen from his dark clothes that he is not a good person. Dongfang Yu was too lazy to think about it. In his view, the cultivators of the Qin dynasty were all enemies. Master, Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu are too despicable. They used such a method to force you to come out. Xiao He and Xiao Bai could not hold back after knowing the reason. These guys were really too hateful. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was also cold. She had only met Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman once. She had never thought that just because of this, she would drag Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman down with her, causing them to suffer such an unexpected calamity. Miss Bailey will not come, you should give up. Yuan Jixin's eyes flashed with anger, and his voice was firm and cold. Nangong Yujin looked at Yuan Jixin with displeasure, and then stepped on Yuan Jixin's body. What does it have to do with you whether I give up or not? I think you are tired of living. Do you want me to kill you now? Yuan Jixin looked at Nangong Yujin with disgust. Kill me if you have the ability. Hearing this, Nangong Yujin was even angrier. He immediately reached out and lifted Yuan Jixin up. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? After seeing this scene, Yuan Xiaoman's face showed a nervous expression. Nangong Yujin. Yuan Jixin was her cousin, but the two of them had been very close since they were young. When she thought of Nangong Yujin killing Yuan Jixin in front of her, she couldn't bear it. Looking at Yuan Xiaoman's angry look, Nangong Yujin's face showed a smug smile. He lifted Nangong Yujin off the ground with his right hand and looked at the surrounding cultivators. Bailey Hongzhuang, if you don't come, this Yuan Jixin will die in my hands. Nangong Yujin's voice was mixed with Yuanli, clearly spreading to every corner of Yaqin city. He did not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would not come out. Chapter 1306. Who is this Bailey Hongzhuang? How can she be so important to the cultivators of the Qing Shao dynasty? I don't think she's a simple character. Maybe today's situation will really happen. If Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't show up today, I'm afraid her reputation will be tarnished in the future. Everyone sighed. They didn't know who Bailey Hongzhuang was, but today, Nangong Yujin threatened Bailey Hongzhuang with his friend's life. If Bailey Hongzhuang didn't show up, she would be a coward. Bailey Hongzhuang, have you become a coward now? Nangong Yu also looked at the cultivators around the square. If Bailey Hongzhuang didn't show up today, she would be even angrier. Today, she specially set up a trap for Bailey Hongzhuang. She wanted to kill Bailey Hongzhuang in front of everyone. Nangong Yujin, Nangong Yu, you are now going further and further down the road of despicable. A cold and indifferent voice suddenly came from under the high platform, and then a white figure slowly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. When everyone saw the white figure, their faces were filled with a touch of amazement. The white gauze dress wrapped around the enchanting and perfect figure, and the slender waist was tied with a blue ribbon. The whole person was like a green lotus, giving people a sense of freshness and tranquility. Her long black hair was casually tied up, revealing a languid and charming charm. Just looking at her back, it was enough to make people's imagination run wild. When everyone saw the face of the woman in white, their amazement had turned into deep amazement. Her ivory white skin was crystal clear, a pair of gentle and moving willow leaf eyebrows, dark as ink, deep like a pool, and it was impossible to see what was flashing in the depths of her eyes. She had a delicate and small nose, perfectly curved lips, and all of her facial features were exquisite to the extreme, revealing a lively and otherworldly beauty. Wow, I feel like I'm looking at the ninth heaven fairy. This woman shouldn't be Bailey Hongzhuang, right? Nangong Yujin has been clamoring for her. It's really an eye-opener. Everyone sighed. Before, they had been guessing who this Bailey Hongzhuang was. Obviously, the Bailey Hongzhuang in front of them was completely different from what they imagined. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang again, Nangong Yu's jealousy could not help but deepen. Almost every time she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she couldn't control the jealousy in her heart. After a year of not seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Nangong Yujin, Bailey Hongzhuang, you dare to come. The moment Nangong Yujin saw Bailey Hongzhuang, his face became gloomy. Perhaps in the eyes of others, Bailey Hongzhuang was like a fairy, but in his eyes, she was an extremely hateful woman. Her delicate and beautiful face evoked a mocking sneer. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Nangong Yujin indifferently. You came to me with such great fanfare, how can I let you down? Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman saw Bailey Hongzhuang appear at the moment. Their faces were full of amazement, and there was an unspeakable shock in their hearts. Zhu Weicheng and the other 5 were partners they had been with for 6 months, but at this critical moment, they did not hesitate to abandon Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman. On the contrary, they and Bailey Hongzhuang just met once, but Bailey Hongzhuang came to save them. Chapter 1307. When Zhu Weicheng and the others saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had actually appeared, there was a look of surprise on their faces. They really did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually come. Didn't this woman know that since the cultivators of the Qin Shao dynasty had deliberately attracted her, they must have made sufficient preparations? At this moment, Zhu Weicheng and the others were amazed and felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was stupid. A cultivator from a small dynasty actually dared to show off in front of a cultivator from a medium-sized dynasty. Wasn't this seeking her own death? However, they were also a little happy in their hearts. Since Bailey Hongzhuang had already come, and they had nothing to do with Bailey Hongzhuang, then maybe they could leave. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are really confident. Now is not the time to hold the inter-school tournament. You won't have the same good luck as before. Nangong Yu looked coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang. She did not know where Bailey Hongzhuang's courage and confidence came from. People with discerning eyes could see that this was a trap. Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to come. She really did not know whether to say that Bailey Hongzhuang was loyal or that Bailey Hongzhuang was stupid. Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to speak, Xia Jiqing had already stood up directly. Nangong Yu, you are just a defeated opponent of Hongzhuang. Now you dare to be so arrogant. Your face is really thick. Bai Junyu also looked at Nangong Yu with disgust. If the inter-school tournament was not held in the Qin Shao dynasty, Hongzhuang would have already killed you. Nangong Yu was also very beautiful, but for this woman, Bai Junyu only felt disgust. Any man who knew the nature of Nangong Yu would feel disgust. After all, people did not only look at appearance. Seeing Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu speak so impolitely, Nangong Yu's face was ashen. What she hated the most was the fact that she had once been defeated by Bailey Hongzhuang. Fortunately, no one usually mentioned it. However, now that Xia Jiqing had said these words in front of so many people, she only felt that she had lost face. When the cultivators present heard that Nangong Yu had once been defeated by Bailey Hongzhuang, they could not help but exclaim. Did I hear wrongly? Nangong Yu, a cultivator from a medium dynasty, was defeated by Bailey Hongzhuang, a cultivator from a small dynasty? Isn't this too strange? You really can't judge a book by its cover. If that's the case, this Bailey Hongzhuang is very strong. It seems like Nangong Yu wants to find Bailey Hongzhuang for revenge. Listening to these words, everyone had already imagined a lot of plots. Thinking about it, with Nangong Yu's identity, being defeated by a cultivator from a small dynasty, she must be unable to bear it. Therefore, it was not surprising that she came to get back at them. Zhu Weicheng was also stunned. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Nangong Yu in disbelief. He could not believe what he had just heard was true. Bailey Hongzhuang, who he looked down on, had defeated Nangong Yu. This was simply too shocking. However, looking at Nangong Yu's ashen face was enough to confirm the answer. Chapter 1308. Listening to Nangong Yu's words, Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu didn't care. For a guy like Nangong Yu, there was no need to be polite. A loser is a loser. No matter what you say, you are still a loser. Xia Jiqing twisted her neck and looked at Nangong Yu proudly. She didn't like Nangong Yu for a day or two, and it was best to make Nangong Yu angry. Looking at Xia Jiqing's smug look, Nangong Yu only felt angry and immediately wanted to slap her. At this time, a low and hoarse voice suddenly sounded, "Are you Bailey Hongzhuang?" Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes turned slightly and looked at the cloaked man who had not spoken since she appeared. He finally spoke at this time. "Yes." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was gentle and her eyes looked directly at the cloaked man. Today was the first time she saw the cloaked man, but from the moment she saw the cloaked man, there was a very uncomfortable feeling in her heart. Now the closer she was to the cloaked man, the more obvious she felt. This guy exuded an uncomfortable aura. In fact, since she walked to the central square, she had been wary of the cloaked man. In her heart, this cloaked man was much more difficult to deal with than Nangong Yujin and the others. "You look good, but it's a pity that your luck is bad. You have offended someone you shouldn't have offended. Only death awaits you." Under the cloak, the man's mouth evoked a sinister and evil smile. His hoarse voice was so unpleasant that people couldn't help but frown. Seeing the cloaked man speak, Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu's faces showed a smile. The cloaked man was their trump card. As long as the cloaked man was willing to make a move, killing Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely not be a problem. "I naturally look good, but a guy like you who can only hide in a cloak must be very ugly." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips evoked a sneer. Since the two sides had become enemies, she naturally wouldn't be polite. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, a shocking murderous aura erupted from the cloaked man's body. Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu's faces changed slightly. At the same time, they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang gloatingly. This Bailey Hongzhuang really hit the muzzle of a gun. Normally, they wouldn't dare to talk to Wei Junjie like this because Hu Junjie was really ugly. As for how ugly it was, they had never seen it. Normally, Wei Junjie was always hidden in his cloak and rarely communicated with others, so they didn't dare to look carefully. However, he had been warned not to mention the word ugly in front of Wei Junjie, let alone try to look at Wei Junjie's appearance. That would be courting death. Therefore, they did not mention a single word about it these days. No one expected Bailey Hongzhuang to poke at Wei Junjie's sore spot the moment she opened her mouth. This was really interesting. "You will die without a doubt." Wei Junjie's eyes flashed with a touch of anger. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. "No matter what, this woman will die without a doubt." In the face of Wei Junjie's anger, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care at all. From the moment she stepped onto the high platform, she already knew that this was a situation where one of them would die. Chapter 1309. The final result is not known yet. You don't have to rush to a conclusion. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. She was also looking at the situation in front of her. The Qing Shao dynasty had a total of 8 cultivators. She glanced at them and their strength was not much different from the cultivators of the Sky dynasty. Except for the cloaked man's strength, there seemed to be a layer of invisible energy that prevented others from seeing his cultivation. She could judge the cultivation of the others. Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu's improvement in this year was obviously not small. After all, the heritage of the royal family was extraordinary. This assessment competition was a very important thing for every dynasty. The royal family of the Qing dynasty must have invested a lot of resources in the two of them. Before their strength had improved, they were able to defeat the cultivators of the Sky dynasty. Now that their strength had improved, the situation was undoubtedly better. Everyone listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's words and their hearts could not help but be amazed. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang could still say such words indifferently. Wasn't her tone too big? "Master, I noticed a dark aura from this cloaked man. His cultivation method should be different from other cultivators." Xiao He frowned slightly. She had been paying attention to the cloaked man. This guy was really strange. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She also noticed this. However, no matter how the cloaked man hid, she would know in a while. Arrogant. Wei Junjie sneered. Bailey Hongzhuang's confidence would not last long. Dongfang Yu, with your strength, you can still participate in the assessment. You are really lucky. Nangong Yujin chuckled and did not hide the contempt in his eyes. In the beginning, Nangong Xiujie just humiliated Dongfang Yu in public. Dongfang Yu fell into pain and could not extricate himself. He thought that such a guy would not be able to go far in the future. He did not expect to see him here again today. It was really rare. Nangong Yu's eyes were also filled with doubt. Although Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were all cultivators of Kanglan College, it was strange that they could participate in the same team. The possibility of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others coming from the same empire was too small. No matter which dynasty it was, they would try their best to select at least one member of the royal family to participate in the assessment. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's team consisted entirely of students from the college. It was the first time she had seen such a team. Dongfang Yu's eyes fell on Nangong Yujin. He hated the royal family of the Qing dynasty to the extreme. Back then, Nangong Xiujie humiliated him and he still remembered it deeply. Although Nangong Xiujie was dead now, this hatred did not dissipate. Moreover, Nangong Yujin was also a disgusting guy. Dongfang Yu's hands clenched into fists. He hated that he couldn't kill Nangong Yujin directly. Seeing this, Gong Shaoqing patted Dongfang Yu's shoulder. As a good friend of Dongfang Yu for many years, he was very clear about the impact of that scene on Dongfang Yu. Dongfang Yu had always been a senior admired by many cultivators. He also had a very outstanding talent in cultivation. Chapter 13:10. Listening to Nangong Yujin's humiliation of Dongfang Yu, the coldness in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes deepened. Nangong Yujin, I really admire you for not dying when the royal family is in turmoil. You can be considered a scourge for thousands of years. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a mocking smile. At the beginning, she hated the royal family of the Qing dynasty to the extreme, so she fed Nangong Yaochen that kind of pill. Logically speaking, any cultivator who was close enough to Nangong Yaochen would have died. However, Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu did not have an accident, which proved that they did not visit Nangong Yaochen after that. On second thought, with Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu's mercenary character, seeing that Nangong Yaochen had no hope, they naturally did not care too much. Therefore, the current situation was normal. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the faces of Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu instantly became ugly. This was the biggest pain in their hearts. The Qing dynasty was prosperous before, but because of Bailey Hongzhuang, the royal family was now hit hard. In the previous period of time, the royal family of the Qing dynasty had been turbulent, and many people had ulterior motives. Coupled with the fact that the neighboring countries knew that the royal family was in trouble, their actions became more frequent. Under this kind of internal and external troubles, they were all badly battered. It was not until recently that they felt a little better. When they thought of the situation, they felt that it was an intolerable tragedy. Bailey Hongzhuang, if it were not for you, my Qing dynasty would not have become like this. Nangong Yu was already angry to the extreme, and now hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, she could not help but explode directly. She used to be so free and unfettered that she did not need to worry about these things. However, because of Bailey Hongzhuang's interference, the power of the royal family was greatly reduced, and even she was almost forced to marry. The initiator of all this was Bailey Hongzhuang. As soon as Nangong Yu finished speaking, all the cultivators around the central square gasped in shock. The fact that Nangong Yu was a member of the royal family of the Qing dynasty was not unknown. In the past year, the strength of the Qing dynasty had weakened a lot. This was a fact that many people knew. However, no one would have thought that the instigator of all this was actually this young woman in front of them. This was simply too shocking. Isn't this Bailey Hongzhuang a cultivator from a small empire? How can she influence the entire royal family of the Green Firmament dynasty? Since Nangong Yu said so, it is most likely the truth. So it turns out that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have such a deep grudge against each other. This Bailey Hongzhuang's ability is too terrifying. At this moment, everyone's impression of Bailey Hongzhuang completely changed. It was simply unimaginable for ordinary people to be able to weaken the strength of a dynasty. Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman were not too surprised after hearing this. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang was a cultivator who had obtained the inheritance of the Bloodgrave Abyss. For such a cultivator, it was simply impossible to understand with common sense. Perhaps things that were very difficult in the eyes of other cultivators were not difficult for them. However, Zhu Weicheng and the others were completely dumbfounded at this moment. Chapter 1311. Ren Wantong could not hide the astonishment in her eyes. It was reasonable to say that the strength of the small dynasty cultivators had always been at the bottom in this assessment. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang looked a little younger than her. She never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength might be strong, because all these conditions showed that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was not strong. However, now Nangong Yu's words had undoubtedly reversed the situation. If the changes in the Qing Shao dynasty were all caused by Bailey Hongzhuang, then how much influence did Bailey Hongzhuang have? At this moment, Ren Wantong immediately thought of the way Yuan Jixin and Nangong Yu flattered Bailey Hongzhuang before. She suddenly understood that Yuan Jixin and Nangong Yu must know how powerful Bailey Hongzhuang was, so the two of them had such an attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang. This Bailey Hongzhuang. Who was she? Xia Jiqing and the others were also stunned. They did not know that such a big thing had happened in the Qing Shao dynasty. Originally, they only thought that Hongzhuang had at most poisoned Nangong Aochen to death. Now it seemed that the situation was obviously not so simple. The entire Qing Shao dynasty had been greatly affected, so what did Hongzhuang do? Gong Shaoqing and the others were secretly shocked, but more than that, they were happy. After all, if they could, they really wanted to destroy the entire royal family of the Qing Shao dynasty. It was just that they did not have the ability to do so, but Hongzhuang had done it, which was tantamount to helping them vent their anger. When Nangong Yujin heard Nangong Yu's words, he knew that the situation was not good, but it was too late to stop it. The turmoil in the Qing Shao dynasty over the past year was something that many dynasties knew, but the specific reasons would not be known by others. As the saying goes, don't wash your dirty linen in public. It was fine to let others guess, but now that Nangong Yu had said the reason, the situation had undoubtedly become worse. The dignified royal family of the Qing Shao dynasty had fallen into such a situation because of a woman. It was unbelievable. Listening to Nangong Yu's words, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. You are lucky to be able to escape this disaster, and now you are looking for trouble. It seems that you miss Nangong Aochen very much. Bailey Hongzhuang's understatement made Nangong Yu even angrier. Whether Nangong Aochen's death or not, she did not feel much. In her heart, the thing she was most upset about was that she had almost been married off to a political marriage. Nangong Aochen, Nangong Yu's words, Wantong Yu Nangong Yu's, heirs, she s. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Nangong Yujin and the others. You called me here with such fanfare, and now that I am here, you can say what you want to do directly. She knew that Nangong Yujin and the others were using Yuan Jixin and the others to threaten her. If she did not come out just now, Nangong Yujin would really kill Yuan Jixin. After all, if he killed Yuan Jixin, He still had Yuan Xiaoman as a bargaining chip. Haha. Wei Junjie laughed hoarsely, you are really courageous. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Wei Junjie faintly, say it, a group fight or a duel. Chapter 13:12. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were so straightforward. She really didn't want to give up until she was shocked to death. Master, in addition to the cultivation of the cloaked man, there are 2 Orange Realm Level 5, 2 Orange Realm Level 2, 3 Orange Realm Level 1, and 1 Red Realm Level 9. Xiao He quickly judged the cultivation of the cultivators of the Qing Xiao dynasty. If it was before, this kind of cultivation would naturally cause a lot of pressure. However, it was not an absolute threat to them now that their strength had improved. If they wanted to kill them with such a lineup, they were afraid that the other party would not be able to do it. Nangong Yu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang mockingly. This assessment competition was completely different from the previous college tournament. Bailey Hongzhuang thought that it was very good to get first place in the college tournament. Now, their strength had increased greatly. Because the influence of the royal family had been affected, this assessment competition was particularly important. The royal family had spent a lot of money to improve their strength. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't forget that the hostages are still in our hands. Nangong Yujin proudly pulled Yuan Jixin. Today, Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely die, but he wanted to humiliate Bailey Hongzhuang. Yuan Jixin's face suddenly became ugly. He did not want to be a burden to Bailey Hongzhuang. Nangong Yujin, you are the prince of the Qing Xiao dynasty. How can you be so despicable? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Nangong Yujin disdainfully. The means of the royal family were really dirty and despicable. However, Nangong Yujin did not care about what Bailey Hongzhuang said. As long as he could humiliate Bailey Hongzhuang today, no matter what the means, he did not care. Xia Jiqing and the others frowned. The reason why they appeared on this high platform was to rescue Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman. They originally intended to rescue Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman while Nangong Yujin and the others were relaxed, but now that Yuan Jixin had been holding on to Yuan Jixin, it was not so convenient for them to act. Bailey Hongzhuang, kneel down immediately, or I will kill Yuan Jixin. Nangong Yujin's mouth was filled with a sneer. Since Bailey Hongzhuang had always been arrogant, then today he would make Bailey Hongzhuang kneel down. Nangong Yu also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang proudly. She wanted to know if Bailey Hongzhuang could be as indifferent as before. Nangong Yujin, you are too despicable. After hearing Nangong Yujin's words, Yuan Xiaoman couldn't bear it and couldn't help but roar. For a prince of a country to use such a method in front of a woman, the word despicable could no longer describe him. After seeing Nangong Yujin's arrogant look, the cultivators present were somewhat disdainful. It was rare for a medium-sized dynasty team to have to resort to threatening means in the face of a small dynasty team. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Nangong Yujin coldly, her dark eyes flashing with deep wisdom. She was not angry because of Nangong Yujin's words. Chapter 13:13. Nangong Yujin, do you have so little confidence in yourself? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. Her beautiful face was enchanting and charming. There are 8 of you and only 5 of us. Under such circumstances, you still need to threaten me to defeat me. Then, aren't you just asking for trouble by going through so much trouble to find me? With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, the cultivators under the stage also began to discuss. That's right, the Qing Xiao dynasty is a medium-sized dynasty. Why does it seem like their status is reversed when facing Bailey Hongzhuang? I don't know what Bailey Hongzhuang did to the Qing Xiao dynasty's royal family. Otherwise, Nangong Yujin would not be so afraid. It's hard to imagine that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength is so great. Listening to the discussion of the crowd, Nangong Yujin's face was a little ugly. He originally just wanted to use Yuan Jixin to make Bailey Hongzhuang lose face and defeat Bailey Hongzhuang's prestige. However, he did not know why, but every time Bailey Hongzhuang could change the original situation with a few words, which made him feel very helpless. Logically speaking, the situation should not be like this at all. Facing the crowd's discussion, Nangong Yujin's hand that was holding Yuan Jixin loosened a little. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion sounded from the high platform, followed by smoke and dust that quickly blocked everyone's sight. Ah! Nangong Yujin screamed as his face was hit hard. Then, he was forced to loosen his grip on Yuan Jixin. Ah! Nangong Yu also let out a blood-curdling scream. A loud slap landed on her face, causing her to feel a burning pain. When she wanted to fight back, no matter how she waved her hands, there was only air in front of her, and no one was there. The faces of the cultivators of the Qing Shao dynasty showed a touch of panic. They did not know what was going on. Fortunately, no one attacked them. This cloud of dust came and went quickly. In a short period of time, it had completely dissipated. When the crowd saw the situation on the high platform again, there was a hint of surprise in their eyes. They saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were still standing in the same place, while Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman were standing behind Bailey Hongzhuang. On the other side, Wei Junjie and the others still did not change, but Nangong Yujin's face had been punched hard. This punch obviously did not hold back. In a short time, his face swelled up and blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. A clear palm print could be seen on Nangong Yu's fair face. Her entire left cheek was swollen, and she no longer looked as arrogant as before. Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman's hearts were full of shock. They were still worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would be threatened because of them. If Bailey Hongzhuang was humiliated because of them, that was something they absolutely didn't want to see. However, in just a short moment, the two of them had been out of control. The speed was so fast that they did not understand what had happened. Wasn't this method too powerful? Zhu Weicheng and the others saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had saved Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman. Their expressions changed again. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang's methods were not simple. Chapter 13-14. Bailey Hongzhuang. Nangong Yu roared in her heart. The situation before was completely under their control. She didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly make such a move. Although she didn't see who slapped her, she was sure that it was Bailey Hongzhuang. Master, I did a good job, didn't I? Xiao Hei's eyes showed a bit of pride. When she rescued Yuan Xiaoman, she saw Nangong Yu so close and gave her a slap. Who told this woman to be so annoying? Whenever she saw her, she wanted to beat her up. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded approvingly. I'll add a plate of braised pork for dinner. Seeing this, Xiao Bai also came up. Master, I did a good job, didn't I? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded again. I'll add a plate of braised pork trotters for dinner. Thank you, Master. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai showed a satisfied smile. As early as when she saw Nangong Yujin and others holding Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman hostage, Bailey Hongzhuang had already expected such a situation to happen. Therefore, she didn't let Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai show up before, but had been hiding in the dark. As long as she took the opportunity to save Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman, then it would become a battle between the two sides. Miss Bailey, thank you for saving our lives. Yuan Jixin's face was full of gratitude. He didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would take such a big risk to save them. This kindness alone was enough to be remembered for a lifetime. Thank you, Miss Bailey, for saving our lives. In the future, I, Yuan Xiaoman, will have no regrets. Yuan Xiaoman's voice was firm. After experiencing the betrayal, she felt that it was not easy for Bailey Hongzhuang to appear. In the face of Bailey Hongzhuang, she was willing to give everything. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Since we are friends, there is no need to say such polite words. Nangong Yujin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang angrily and grabbed Zhu Weicheng. Bailey Hongzhuang, you only saved 2 people, the others are still in my hands. Suddenly grabbed by Nangong Yujin, Zhu Weicheng's face showed a touch of fear. If you don't slap yourself, I will kill him. Nangong Yujin's eyes were full of anger. He must fix Bailey Hongzhuang. Listening to Nangong Yujin's words, Zhu Weicheng quickly said, Miss Bailey's helps, save me. Nangong Yujin's sts, IMS, I, SSS she, SS's. With this fellow's ungrateful nature, even if he saved him now, he wouldn't remember this favor in the future. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was loyal to her friends, she didn't have the slightest bit of sympathy for those who had nothing to do with her. Zhu Weicheng's face instantly paled. He looked at Yuan Jixin with hope. Yuan Jixin, we're teammates. You have to save me. Now, they could only count on Yuan Jixin. Since Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to save Yuan Jixin, it proved that Bailey Hongzhuang valued him very much. As long as Yuan Jixin spoke, he would have a chance to survive. Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman glanced at each other. The previous betrayal was still vivid in their minds. Chapter 13-15. Zhu Weicheng, from the moment you betrayed me and Xiaoman, we are no longer teammates. Yuan Jixin's voice was cold and calm. He and Yuan Xiaoman were not kind people. In fact, none of the cultivators who participated in the assessment were kind people. For a teammate who betrayed him, even if he saved him now, he did not know when he would be betrayed in the future. From this matter, he had thoroughly seen the other person's character, so there was no need to be merciful. Thinking about it, Bailey girl must also think so, otherwise, she would not only save the brother and sister. With Yuan Jixin's voice falling, Zhu Weicheng's face became pale, and the faces of Ren Wantong and the others also became extremely ugly. Who would have thought that things would turn out like this? Originally, they thought that Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman were going to die. Who would have thought that now, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others actually saved them? Yuan Jixin, you can't do this to me. Zhu Weicheng stared at Yuan Jixin. At this moment, Yuan Jixin was his last life-saving straw. If Yuan Jixin did not save him, then he was really going to die. I was wrong before, I am sorry, please forgive me this time. I will never do it again. Zhu Weicheng's eyes were red, and in the face of the fear of death, his eyes could not help but be filled with tears. He never thought that he would die in the assessment. In the face of Zhu Weicheng's crying appearance, everyone was somewhat contemptuous. In this world where the strong were like clouds, the strong were naturally worshipped, and from another point of view, everyone worshipped the brave. Obviously, Zhu Weicheng had nothing to do with these two. Before, in order to survive, he directly abandoned Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman, and now, in order to plead for mercy, he was crying. Everyone was afraid of death, but people like Zhu Weicheng, who did not have any dignity, were the most despised. Nangong Yujin looked at Zhu Weicheng with some disgust. Before they subdued Zhu Weicheng was still arrogant, but now the situation had reversed. Yuan Xiaoman looked at Zhu Weicheng with disgust. Zhu Weicheng, you reap what you sow. She had always dared to love and hate. When she thought of how Zhu Weicheng had abandoned them, she hated Zhu Weicheng to the extreme and was unwilling to pay any attention to him. When Xia Jiqing and the others saw Yuan Jixin's attitude, there was a hint of joy in their eyes. This was the right attitude to treat people like Zhu Weicheng. If one still had hope for them, then they were truly hopeless. In their eyes, people who betrayed their friends were the most despicable. Seeing the attitude of Yuan Xiaoman and the others, Zhu Weiqing knew that there was no hope for them to help, so he could only put his hope on Nangong Yujin. Young Master Nangong, as you can see, I have nothing to do with them. I beg you, please let me go. This matter has nothing to do with me. When Ren Wantong and the others saw this scene, they all cried out, please let us go. We really don't know them. Nangong Yujin frowned. He had never seen such a shameless guy. Without waiting for Nangong Yujin to speak, a throwing knife cut Zhu Weiqing's throat. Chapter 13-16. Noisy. Wei Junjie only spat out these two words indifferently. This fellow was really too noisy, causing his ears to not be able to have a moment of peace. Seeing this scene, Ren Wantong and the others shut up and did not dare to say another word. Otherwise, they were afraid that a flying knife would end their lives. Nangong Yujin threw the dead Zhu Weiqing on the ground. In fact, if Wei Junjie didn't do it, he would have done it because this guy was too noisy. Wei Junjie turned his eyes to Bailey Hongzhuang. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed a capable person. Bailey Hongzhuang, I admit that your means are good, but today, you are doomed to die. Wei Junjie's hoarse voice was full of confidence. He had promised Nangong Yujin and the others that he would help them solve the problem of Bailey Hongzhuang. Today was the time to solve the problem. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, cut the crap. Let's see who's the real deal. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, the surging Yuanli in her body instantly turned over, and the aura of Orange Realm Level 5 burst out. After feeling the cultivation of Bailey Hongzhuang, Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu couldn't help but widen their eyes. Did they see it wrong? Bailey Hongzhuang actually reached the 5th level of the Orange Realm. Even if the royal family spent a lot of money on them, they only reached Orange Realm Level 4. Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation was higher than theirs. In the next moment, the aura of Xia Jiqing and the others also burst out. All of them were Red Realm Level 9, which surprised everyone again. Which small dynasty did Bailey Hongzhuang and the others come from? Their strength is really amazing. With this kind of strength, there is no one in the small dynasty who can defeat them. Although their cultivation is good, there is still a big gap between them and the cultivators of the Green Firmament dynasty. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were very powerful, the cultivators present still favored the cultivators from the Green Firmament dynasty. After all, cultivation was the most important thing in a battle. The combat strength of middle-sized empires had always been stronger than the cultivators of small-sized empires. This was the difference in national strength, and it was especially obvious in this assessment. Ren Wantong and the others were shocked and they saw the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Previously, they only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were all in the Red Realm and were not qualified to get along with them. Now it seemed that they had really overestimated themselves. Bailey Hongzhuang's Orange Realm Rank 5 cultivation base was something that many cultivators from medium-sized dynasties could not achieve. Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu looked at each other. If Bailey Hongzhuang had reached the 5th order of the Orange Realm, then Xia Jiqing had also reached the 9th order of the Red Realm. When did the Azure Water College become so strong? Could it be that the Kanglin College's previous results in the college tournament were intentional? With Bailey Hongzhuang and the others releasing their aura, the cultivators of the Green Firmament dynasty were not willing to fall behind. Even if Yuan Jixin and Xia Jiqing were rescued by Bailey Hongzhuang and the other party would not be their opponents in a head-on battle. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were fixed on Wei Junjie. At this moment, Wei Junjie could not continue to hide his cultivation base. Chapter 13-17. With a wave of Wei Junjie's hand, a large amount of powder flew over. Seeing the large amount of powder, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her hand, and her clothes directly blocked the powder. "Be careful, it's poisonous." A cold voice sounded. The moment she saw the powder, Bailey Hongzhuang had already understood what it was. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xia Jiqing and the others also quickly reacted, their figures quickly retreating and immediately covering their noses and mouths. However, no one thought that Wei Junjie would suddenly use this move, so it was impossible to guard against it. "You're a poison master." Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed. She had been guessing Wei Junjie's identity before, but she did not expect Wei Junjie to be a poison master. As the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang fell, the cultivators under the high platform showed a look of horror. They immediately retreated a few dozen meters, and looked at Wei Junjie with a different look in their eyes. Poison master, in the Xingxian continent, was a profession that people hated and feared. Poison masters had all kinds of poison powder, poison liquid, poison pills in their hands. They had always walked in the dark and rarely exposed their identity. For this kind of cultivator who walked in the dark, everyone instinctively disliked them. No one dared to offend a poison master. If their cultivation was not enough, they might have a chance to escape, but in the face of those strange poisons, they had no chance at all. However, none of them thought that Wei Junjie was a poison master. After knowing Wei Junjie's identity, everyone felt that Wei Junjie's gloomy and dark appearance was the portrayal of a poison master. Hee hee. Wei Junjie's laughter was hoarse and unpleasant. "The poison pill you fed Nangong Aochen was powerful, and it took me a lot of effort to come in contact with it. Today, I'll let you see my poison technique." Wei Junjie's hands stretched out slightly, and Bailey Hongzhuang also saw Wei Junjie's hands. The thin fingers were now covered with black, and even the nails were slowly turning black. Where was the human hand? Xia Jiqing and the others were speechless. This was the first time they had seen a poison master, but his appearance was too terrifying. Nangong Yujin's face showed a touch of pride. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you met Wei Junjie, today you will die." Because of the plague, important members of the royal family were infected. For a while, the entire royal family of the Qin dynasty seemed to have fallen into hell. Fortunately, they were fortunate enough to meet Wei Junjie and his master. Ordinary people would naturally avoid poison masters like the plague, but to the royal family at that time, Wei Junjie and Li Wuyo were extremely lucky. Physicians were the most knowledgeable about illnesses, and only poison masters were the most knowledgeable about poisons. With Wei Junjie's help, the plague was finally eradicated. While everyone was in shock and fear, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression remained indifferent. She had met a poison master in her previous life, and one of her masters was the renowned poison saint of the Xingxian continent. A poison master's body was full of poison, and as long as they touched it, they could be infected with poison and die. Wei Junjie's 10 fingers were black, which was a major feature of a poison master. Even some poison masters had black blood. After years of exposure to poison, he had completely become a poison man. Chapter 13:18. Because of being immersed in poison all year round, the poison master's body would gradually be eroded by the poison. As a result, the poison master could not spend the rest of his life with his beloved, because if he was not careful, his beloved may die because of the poison in his body. It was precisely because of this that most poison masters were ruthless people. After all, if the heart was not ruthless enough, the average person would not be able to do it. The faces of Xia Jiqing and the others became ugly. If Wei Junjie's strength was stronger, they may have a chance to win. But Wei Junjie was a poison master, so it was not difficult to deal with him. At least, they had no way to deal with Wei Junjie. Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman's faces were pale, and they suddenly remembered the medicinal pills that Wei Junjie had fed them before. If they hadn't been clear about what the pill was before, at this moment, they had completely understood. In addition to poison, it could not be anything else. When they thought of this, the two were also a little discouraged. Even if they succeeded in leaving here today, under the effect of the poison, they would not be able to survive. The next moment, Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman's eyes became firm. Since they were destined to die, they must not let the other party be happy. Miss Bailey, you should go. Anyway, we can't live, we will help you block them. Yuan Jixin lowered his voice and said to Bailey Hongzhuang. At a time like this was the best way to solve the problem. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were originally involved because of them. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others felt warm and moved. In any case, just from Yuan Jixin's words, they could see his loyalty. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand slightly, and a smile appeared on her pretty face. Don't worry, it hasn't reached that point yet. Yuan Jixin was startled, and his face couldn't help but show an anxious look. But after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's calm and magical smile, his original worry quietly calmed down a bit. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her phoenix eyes and shot a sharp gaze at Wei Junjie. Since that's the case, let's see whose poison skills are better. She rarely used poison, but that didn't mean that she didn't know how to use poison. On the contrary, her poison skills were also outstanding. As soon as these words came out, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with surprise in their eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang, what do you mean? Is she also a poison master? But she doesn't look like a poison master at all. Bailey Hongzhuang is truly a newborn calf that is not afraid of tigers. She thinks that she is invincible just because she has some strength. I'm afraid that she won't even know how she died. Everyone couldn't help but mock. If there were still some cultivators who thought that Bailey Hongzhuang might win before, now everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would lose without a doubt. Because this was simply an unsolvable situation. Under the black cloak, a sharp light flashed in Wei Junjie's eyes. He had seen the poison that Bailey Hongzhuang had used on Nangong Aochen. This poison was extremely powerful, and even his master had been amazed when he saw it. After that, they had spent half a year researching the method to detoxify the poison. Chapter 13-19. According to his master and his thoughts, the person who made this poison pill was definitely not Bailey Hongzhuang herself. The only possibility was that there was a very powerful poison master behind Bailey Hongzhuang. One must know that his master's poison skills were superb, and there were not many poison masters in the entire Xingxian continent that could be compared to him. However, in the face of this poison, his master directly asserted that the other party's poison skills were not worse than his, and might even be stronger than him. Therefore, he wanted to find out the poison master behind Bailey Hongzhuang, so that his master could compete with him. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be a poison master, because Bailey Hongzhuang was a cultivator of the Kanglan College. Just from her results in the college tournament, it could be judged that she put all her energy into cultivation, and it was impossible for her to study poison. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang's white dress and white fingers had nothing to do with a poison master. Thinking of this, Wei Junjie couldn't help but chuckle. Bailey Hongzhuang, although you know some medical skills, if you want to compete with me in poison skills, you will lose without a doubt. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged indifferently. It's useless to say more, let's compete. Xia Jiqing couldn't help but get close to Bailey Hongzhuang's ear and said worriedly, Hongzhuang, this Wei Junjie looks very strange, can you really do it? When she faced Wei Junjie, she always had a very gloomy feeling, which made people very unhappy. Don't worry, I'm sure. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and said, let me deal with Wei Junjie. You have to be careful when you fight with Nangong Yujin and the others. Xia Jiqing saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was so confident, and she was also relieved. In her eyes, there was nothing that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't do. Since Bailey Hongzhuang said so, she was very confident. We understand. Hong Zhuang will deal with Wei Junjie, so naturally, they will deal with Nangong Yujin and the others. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, go help Jiqing and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly arranged everything. With Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Yuan Jixin and Xiao Xiao, their numbers were more than enough. The battle broke out in an instant. Xia Jiqing and the others did not hesitate to rush towards Nangong Yujin and the others. They couldn't stand the sight of these hateful fellows for a long time. They wanted to take advantage of today's opportunity to thoroughly deal with these hateful fellows. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Wei Junjie immediately attacked Bailey Hongzhuang. The poisonous powder in his hand was scattered all over the place. It was as if the sky was filled with snow. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure flew, and with a turn, she dodged the poisonous powder. At the same time, several silver needles appeared in her hand, but these silver needles were different from usual. They were completely black. Just by looking at the rich black edge, one could judge the poison on the silver needles. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand, and the silver needles quickly flew out. At the same time, the poisonous powder in her right hand was also scattered. Wei Junjie saw this and quickly dodged. These poisonous powders had different effects. At this time, it must be difficult to detoxify the poison. Compared to the poison battle between Bailey Hongzhuang and Wei Junjie, Xia Jiqing and the others had already fought with Nangong Yujin and the others. Chapter 1320. The surging energy fluctuations swept across the central square, and a series of brilliant martial arts techniques were constantly displayed by Xia Jiqing and the others, bursting into fierce collisions in midair. Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu were also dumbfounded. They originally thought that with their strength, they would have no problem dealing with Xiahou Ziqing and the others. However, who knew that two beasts would suddenly appear? The appearance of two beasts was one thing, but the strength of these two beasts had reached Orange Realm level 5. In their eyes, this was simply an impossible matter. Obviously, these two beasts were contract beasts, otherwise, it would be impossible for them to help Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to deal with them. It was already very difficult for them to reach Orange Realm level 5. Now, the strength of these two contract beasts was comparable to them. This was simply a blow to their confidence. Originally, they thought that it would not be too difficult for them to deal with the beasts, but the power of these beasts was really embarrassing. They simply could not compare with them. Fortunately, these two demonic beasts did not know any martial skills. Otherwise, they would have really lost all their face. Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman were both at Orange Realm level 1. Although they were injured, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had already given them healing pills when they were rescued. They had not yet recovered, but as long as they were patient, this battle would not be a problem. Under such circumstances, the onlookers found that the situation of the Qing Shao dynasty's cultivators completely crushing them did not happen. On the contrary, Xia Jiqing and the others were suppressing them. Nangong Yujin's face was extremely ugly. While fighting with Xiao Bai, he looked at Wei Junjie, only hoping that Wei Junjie could quickly deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. Once Wei Junjie dealt with Bailey Hongzhuang, he only needed to use poison to kill Xia Jiqing and the others. There was no need for them to fight so hard. However, when Nangong Yujin looked at Wei Junjie, he found that Wei Junjie was actually comparable to Bailey Hongzhuang. After discovering this, Nangong Yujin was also dumbfounded. This situation was completely different from what he imagined. Wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang an alchemist? Wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang an inscription master? As a cultivator, it was already very heaven-defying for her to master these two professions, but now she was competing with a poison master. Nangong Yujin was speechless. He really did not understand who Bailey Hongzhuang was. Why couldn't he judge her according to the thinking of ordinary people? The more Wei Junjie fought with Bailey Hongzhuang, the more he was surprised. According to his judgment, Bailey Hongzhuang should have been defeated long ago, but Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to be defeated. After exchanging blows, both of them had already been poisoned. However, poison masters had a deep understanding of poisons, and the antidote pills they created were also very useful, of poison. Of poison, of poison, of poison, of poison. Because he had been immersed in poison all year round, he had been soaked in poison since he was a child. Ordinary poisons would not have any effect on him at all. It was precisely because he had been immersed in poison since he was a child that he had done a lot of experiments on himself over the years. Therefore, his appearance had been completely destroyed and he could not show himself in front of everyone. Chapter 13:21. After another wave of poison attacks, the way Wei Junjie looked at Bailey Hongzhuang had completely changed. If he had previously suspected that Bailey Hongzhuang was just a newborn calf that was not afraid of tigers, at this moment, he could already confirm that Bailey Hongzhuang was a poison master. Other than a poison master, no matter if it was a doctor or a cultivator, after being hit by so many poisons, it was impossible for them to be so unaffected. Bailey Hongzhuang's moves and calm appearance, other than a poison master, there was no other possibility. However, thinking of this point, Wei Junjie's shock grew even stronger. Since Bailey Hongzhuang was also a poison master, then why was there such a huge gap between them? He had followed his master since he was young, and after his master brought him back, he had no other choice. As a disciple of a poison master, he could only be a poison master. Even he himself could not remember how long it had been since he last saw his own face, because even he did not dare to look at it. If he could, he also wished that he didn't look like this, neither human nor ghost. Unfortunately, this was destined from the beginning. As everyone knew, a dark skin was a characteristic of a poison master, and it was impossible to change. However, since they were both poison masters, why was Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him in a completely different state? How did you do it? Wei Junjie could not hide the shock in his eyes, and could not help but ask. Hearing Wei Junjie's words, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood what Wei Junjie was asking. Back then, her master was also like Wei Junjie, changing his appearance and unable to see others. However, as her master's poison arts became more and more exquisite, and finally reached the stage of returning to the original state, all the poison in her body disappeared, and her body became immune to all poisons. When she became her master's disciple, her master had already returned to the appearance of a normal person. As her master's understanding of poison arts deepened, she also avoided walking the same path as other poison masters when learning. However, Wei Junjie obviously did not have her luck. There are thousands of cultivation methods in this world, and even if you are both poison masters, you may not walk the same path. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone was mild. She did not have any good impression of Wei Junjie, so naturally, she would not explain too much. Just from Wei Junjie's previous performance, she knew that Wei Junjie's hands were stained with blood. A large part of the reason why poison masters were loathed was because of their viciousness. In order to test their poison techniques, many poison masters would find some innocent people to be their test subjects. These test subjects often had tragic endings. Just hearing about it was enough to make one shudder. Therefore, although Bailey Hongzhuang knew about poison, she had never revealed her identity as a poison master. She had never used a human as a test subject. Moreover, she had put more effort into her medical skills. You mean there's another way? Wei Junjie's eyes lit up. He never thought that there would be such a possibility. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. There are many ways in this world, you just haven't found them yet. However, I'm afraid you won't be able to find them in this lifetime, but there might be a chance in your next life." Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Wei Junjie's face instantly turned ugly. Chapter 13:22. Her delicate and beautiful face curled into an enchanting and confident arc. This was a plan that she had long prepared. Previously, she had used poison to paralyze Wei Junjie's body and dull his senses. She had then taken advantage of the moment when Wei Junjie had been speaking to stab her silver needles into his body. If this had happened before, Wei Junjie would have noticed it very quickly given his reaction speed. However, Wei Junjie's body was now paralyzed and he could not sense the silver needles in his body. By the time he realized it, the poison would have already entered his blood. Based on the speed of his blood circulation, it would soon invade his internal organs. Even though Wei Junjie has a certain level of resistance against many poisons, once the poison enters his blood, even a poison master would be powerless to save him if he did not have an antidote. Wei Junjie's expression instantly turned ugly. He had fallen into Bailey Hongzhuang's trap because he had wanted to restore his normal appearance. Wei Junjie immediately took out an antidote pill and swallowed it at the thought of this. However, he did not know how powerful Bailey Hongzhuang's poison was and whether his antidote pill would be able to cure it. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm as she watched Wei Junjie's actions. She had long seen this as an opportunity. Hence, the poison that she had used was the most powerful one among all the poisons that she had mastered. It was a poison that she had invented. Even her master had been shocked when she had first concocted this poison. The most peculiar thing was that after she had concocted the poison, she had not been able to concoct an antidote for a long time. It was not only her master had not been able to concoct an antidote either. In the end, both master and disciple had concocted the antidote as if they had been possessed and had finally succeeded. It was after she had concocted this poison and the antidote that her master had told her that she could complete her apprenticeship. Hence, she had a special feeling towards this poison. She believed that this was Wei Junjie's first time encountering this poison and he would never be able to cure it. What's going on? Why does Wei Junjie look like that? Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang has one? Why is the situation between them so strange? How could this be? Bailey Hongzhuang is not a true poison master, how could she have won against Wei Junjie? However, Bailey Hongzhuang has been able to compete with Wei Junjie for so long in terms of poison techniques. This proves that her poison skills are not bad. Everyone expressed their opinions. This was their first time witnessing a poison competition and they could not understand the trick behind it. The only thing they knew was that if it had been them, they wouldn't have been able to withstand a single wave of poison attacks. Soon, Wei Junjie found that the situation in his body was getting worse and worse. The detoxification pill could not remove the poison in his body. On the contrary, the poison was spreading faster. 5. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Wei Junjie faintly. She usually didn't use much poison. Only in some special circumstances would she use this method. This heart-devouring 5 poisons was made by her using 5 special poisons. Ordinary poison masters would never be able to imagine which 5 poisons she used to concoct it. Because of the mutual promotion and suppression of these 5 poisons, some of them had already been worn away, making it impossible to determine. Chapter 13:23. Xia Jiqing and the others were fighting fiercely with Nangong Yujin's group. The collisions of their martial arts caused amazing movements. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's fighting power was not weak, plus Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yu, their strength was raised by the royal family through some means, so their foundation was not solid. As a result, Nangong Yujin and Nangong Yujin retreated step by step as Xiao He and Xiao Bai fought. Slap! Xiao Hei slapped Nan Gongyu's face again. But before it was the left side of her face, now it was the right side. Nan Gongyu's swollen face was now symmetrical, but it was swollen like a pig's head. Feeling this familiar slap, Nan Gongyu's eyes suddenly changed. Looking at Xiao Hei in front of her, her eyes were full of burning anger. She always thought that the slap on her face was done by Bailey Hongzhuang, but now she knew that it was done by the contract beast in front of her. "I'm going to kill you, beast!" Nan Gongyu shouted. She was slapped twice by a beast. This was simply a joke. Xiao Hei was a little proud and looked at Nan Gongyu provocatively. At the same time, a fist directly hit Nan Gongyu's eye. Boom! Nan Gongyu's body fell down. Under this fist, she was already dizzy and seeing stars. Seeing Xiao Hei's attack, Xiao Bai was not slow either. Another fist hit Nan Gongyu's face. This guy was so annoying, killing him directly was too easy, so naturally, he had to be humiliated. "You despicable and shameless guy, you want the master to kneel to you, dream on." Boom! Xiao Bai punched again. He had wanted to kill this guy for a long time, but he was forced to do so. Now that this guy took the initiative to come to his door, he had to teach him a lesson. Dongfang Yu quickly solved the Red Realm 9th stage cultivator. Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman fought against the Orange Realm 2nd stage cultivator. Gong Xiaoqing, Xia Jiqing, and Bai Junyu fought against the Orange Realm 1st stage cultivators. Compared with the overwhelming advantage of Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai, Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman were in a very difficult situation. Their cultivations were already one level lower than their opponents. Coupled with the fact that they were already injured, it was only natural that they were forced to retreat step by step. They could only hold on and fight back. Seeing this, Dongfang Yu rushed directly to Nan Gongyujin and said to Little White, you go and help Yuan Jixin. Let me deal with this guy." Hearing this, Little White looked at Dongfang Yu and then at Nan Gongyujin. After Nan Gongyujin was beaten up by him, his fighting strength rapidly weakened. He also had a lot of injuries on his body. Basically, he didn't have much fighting power left. He believed that with Dongfang Yu's strength, it shouldn't be difficult to deal with Nan Gongyujin. What's more, he also knew about the hatred between Dongfang Yu and Nan Gongyujin. Dongfang Yu could solve this problem himself. In the next moment, Xiao Bai immediately went to Yuan Jixin and the others. They spent so much effort to rescue Yuan Jixin and Yuan Xiaoman. They couldn't let anything happen to them. With the appearance of Xiao Bai, the pressure on Yuan Jixin and Nan Gongyujin was greatly reduced. They could only barely hold on, and there were many wounds on their bodies. But when Xiao Bai came, it became a complete suppression. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.